Chapter 36, Aether, Dark Torvus Temple. Spike made a point of not meeting Applejack's eyes as he continued telling the story. The way she kept smirking at him after he told the story of how he bested the powerbomb guardian made him uneasy, and he kept feeling like if he met her gaze too long he'd be forced to confess what really happened. While he wasn't ashamed of how he behaved, powerbombs were deadly, after all. The worshipful gazes of Crusaders in Rainbow had been giving him after that tale felt nice, and he didn't want to lose that. After that, we decided to explore the rest of the Dark Torvus Temple area, Spike explained. While we did have all the keys we needed to access the path to the energy controller. My scans indicated more of my missing tech, and we didn't want to leave without it, Samus finished. And the Guardian, well, let's just say I'd have been in major trouble if I hadn't had Spike with me. Exploring the temple, Samus and Spike found a new path back into Dark Torvus, where they encountered some ink-possessed Grinchlers. While they were even tougher than normal, they retained the same weaknesses, although the ink possession made the Dark Grinchlers smart enough to try and keep their backs to the wall while fighting with their electrical discharges. Unfortunately for them, Spike found that going over the ceiling and attacking them from above worked quite well for damaging the shell on their back ends, and the ink could not override the instinctive spin to face the new threat, leaving Samus free to shoot them. After checking the other exits to the room, the pair split up, taking two separate paths to the room where Samus had picked up the Guardian. Samus went around the outside circle of the temple chambers, and Spike went direct through the middle. The plan was to come at the Guardian from two directions, but both paths went through the center of the temple anyway. Finally, they came across the Grapple Guardian, a Darkling Alpha Grinchler that had enhanced its electrical discharge with the energies of the grapple beam. It patrolled a large dynamo area, with two safe zones generated, one at either end of the room. Samus couldn't help but grin. Had she been alone, she would have been forced to dance around from one area to the other, conserving energy while trying to wear it down, hoping it would latch itself to the dynamos to hold it in place. While not necessarily difficult, it would have been frustrating. With Spike at her side, however, they had a much easier time. Positioning themselves in either safe zone, they each continued to take pot shots at the back shell or the eye, whichever weak point was towards them. Unable to meet the two-pronged attack, and with the rage of the bestial mind too much for the ing to control, the beast went down quickly, and Samus was able to reacquire her grapple beam. "You two make quite a team in combat, don't you?" Celestia observed. "We know each other quite well," Samus replied casually, "so we can work off each other pretty easily. That, and most of the monsters we come up against aren't good at multi-pronged defense." Luna chuckled. "Remembering old times, Tia?" she asked archly. "And you don't like remembering them?" Celestia teased back. "I do not deny it," Luna replied aloofly. "However, unlike thee, dear sister, our royal plot still fits in our old battle armor. Perhaps a tad less cake for thee?" "Oh hush, you!" Celestia scolded as Luna smirked. Twilight looked embarrassed, Rarity looked scandalized, and everyone else present, Discord included, laughed with varying degrees of merriment. At any rate, Samus continued with a smile once the laughter had died down. With the grapple beam once more in hand, we were ready to take on the Guardian of Dark Torvus Temple, the Chica. And boy, was that fight complicated! Samus and Spike stood on the central platform as the three keys embedded themselves in their respective locks. They both glanced around nervously as the chamber began to fill with dark water, but the platform they stood on rose above the water, connecting to a much larger circular platform, big enough for them both to move around on as it floated on a sea of dark water, covered in a safe zone generated by 3 Luminoth crystals. A large cocoon was affixed to one wall. Using her Seeker missile, Samus locked onto the supports holding the cocoon out of the water and eradicated them, dumping the cocoon. When the two abs floated up out of the water, she and Spike braced themselves for combat. Neither of them expected the giant whale-like larva that leapt out of the water to attack them. Scans indicated that the Chica larva was vulnerable in its mouth and underbelly, and the pair worked to take it down. Samus focused on attacking its mouth when it went after her on the platform, while Spike took to the air. When it leapt into the air to attack Spike, he dove, rolled over in the air, and let loose with his flame breath, scorching its belly. It wasn't long before the Chica larva sunk beneath the waters. However, that wasn't the end. As the central platform split into 3 smaller, less stable ones that floated away from each other, creating 3 smaller safe zones, the dark water receded to reveal a new cocoon. When it burst open, the Chica arose in its adult form, now looking like a giant dragonfly/mosquito hybrid somewhat larger than Spike. Spike, of course, decided to attack it from the air. Unfortunately for the Chica, it was its first time fighting an aerial opponent. It wasn't Spike's. Spike quickly flew around the Chica several times in tight circles until it got disoriented trying to track him. Once it was dizzy, he lunged in on its back, tearing its wings out by the roots with his claws and making it crash down on one of the platforms. A combined assault of flames, claws, teeth, and blasts from Samus left the Chica in pieces. Samus was rather surprised to find a piece of Luminoth tech inside the Chica's stomach. The Dark Visor would prove invaluable in dealing with enemies and obstacles that were slightly outside the real world, a rather common occurrence on Aether. And after that, we went to get the energy from the Dark Torvus energy controller. So what did the Chica taste like? Pinky demanded, interrupting Samus. Chuckling, Spike replied, crunchy and tart. And then you did the same thing you did with the energy from the Dark Aegon controller? Rainbow asked. Samus nodded. Yup. And after that, we headed back to talk with Umos again.